any potential. Oh, shoot, sorry. So.
You also can just click on the little arrow. The down arrow will do you one page at a time.
That's exactly what we're doing now.
Okay.
All right, so going to 16, no issue, 17, no issue.
Hello.
Okay, so 18 concerns because now we've got, it looks like drawings, like the state took a drawing and then used the drawing to write on it over the drawing. So it looks modified, first of all, and we're concerned about it being modified.
But why can't the investigator modify it if he says, I modify it to show you, here's the Y, the S, and the L? In other words, he's illustrating. These are all for illustrative or demonstrative purposes. And so this would be his explanation of how you fashion or see YSL from that hand signal.
My concern was just a modification.
Okay, got it. Next slide.
I think the next slide, Your Honor, 20, we have the same concern as 12.
Okay, we're on 19 right now.
I'm sorry, 19, we have the same concern as 12. Mr. Young Thug is also in this photograph. And
Okay,
we think that'll be more prejudicial than probative, whether,
What was that concern? I got most of the notes. What was just primarily that it was?
that is Young Thug, and that means the trial downstairs, and that could create inappropriate prejudice for Mr. Robinson. All right, 20? You don't need to say a whole lot about 20. I don't see 20 staying in.
Can I say something?
You can when it's your turn. I'm just letting you know where I'm going.
yeah, 20.
So let's keep going.
Okay, so 21, Your Honor, the concern is.
I like how
There
I
is a grave. There is a grave that is in 21. There's also a property that is not affiliated with this case. So now we have another location. And we are also concerned about the inference of death as it pertains to the grave site that we're looking at.
Okay,
No issue there. Okay, so this we have an issue with. The reason we have an issue with it.
so let's use the page number so the record is clear.
Page 23.
All right,
Page 23, we have an issue, Your Honor. We have what appears to be a green, it looks like a magic carpet to me, but I'm assuming it's
it's a bandana, a green bandana like you see in lots of the photos and videos, including your client?
Correct.
Okay,
now we have the expert who's supposed to be explaining how gangs work, taking a photograph of our client and putting it in to a triangle.
Right.
I think that is more prejudicial than probative if this expert is explaining how gangs work. Because now, if this gang expert has a picture of our client, which appears to be a mugshot, that he's putting into the slideshow, that we may have an issue as it pertains to more prejudicial than probative.
okay.
No issue there on 24.
Just go to the pages where you've got issues.
25 also has a post, and it looks like an Instagram post. We don't know whose Instagram post that is, but it could create confusion as to whether or not our client actually posted that.
Okay,
20,
The problem is,
27 is
My
not
client's
even
entire life.
legible.
makes him look
So I
like he
don't
would
know
actually
what-
commit this crime.
Assistance, it's gonna give a gang expert.
It's a
So
video.
we would ask 27 to be excluded.
okay,
Also, if it's the video, it would be duplicative, because I believe the court has granted the state the opportunity to play that video.
Okay,
Same objection for 28. Objection for 29 is the same as the objection with the cropping of our client's photograph into a triangle that the officer is trying to explain how gangs work.
okay,
I don't know.
No issue with 30.
I would make the same objections, but
Our client's not in 31, but we would have the same concern because our client's charged with the person who's depicted in 31, and it looks like a mugshot.
okay,
Issue with 32 is this looks like a post. And I am not certain whose post it is, and we're gonna have to clarify as to whether it's my client's post or not, so we believe that it would create confusion, because we're using both screenshots and postings and Instagrams from our client's case in this case.
all right, I'm gonna ask you to pause for a second. What can we do to prevent this from happening each day? Any idea?
Actually disconnected from Wi-Fi. The people were on.
If that's what it is, because it gets stuck on Teams,
It's
like it
called
starts up and it's
in-camera
just, it's on
inspection of all
Teams
of
and
it.
spinning.
that's what usually happens. But what do I know?
Okay. That's not how it's supposed to work.
Yeah, because it disconnected.
I don't, all I know is that it's not supposed to be each day. We have to get someone from your office to run in here and fix it. Okay. Okay, great. Is that the new phone?
Yes.
So go for it. All right, so whoop, you went away from the slide we were on.
I did, Your Honor. Going back to 30, this appears to be somebody else's post. And it's a song, so I'm not sure if it's gonna have audio associated with it. But we would object to 30.
What is 30 gonna be, Mr. Hiles? Just that picture?
Yeah, there's not gonna be any audio, if there is audio, I don't intend to play it, but what it is there was other gang members, it was not posted by Mr. Robinson, but it was other gang members posting to free baby slap, and it was after.
But during the presentation, is this a still photo or is it a video?
I believe it is a still photo.
So you've disclosed fully slide 30. There's not a video that's gonna play that no one else has seen before.
No, the only videos that are embedded in this PowerPoint were the two videos that we discussed.
Meaning, the guns up and whatever the other one's called? Okay, all right. So to be clear, 30 is what we're looking at there. That's the extent of what 30 will be. Miller will say what he says about it, but it is a picture of Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Okay. All right, back to you, Ms. Mignot.
32, Your Honor, is a Instagram post.
Right, we had already talked about that one and you said it could create confusion. It's not clear who sent it, et cetera. Hold on one second. Is it happy and running? Or it has to set up? Okay, but no, but it should self-start.
Yes.
Like in 10 minutes, I should be able to make a phone call.
Yes.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, back to you, Ms. Mignot.
Once again, the same objection, Instagram post. There might be confusion as to whether or not our client posted this. And I am concerned that this demonstrative might be a way to get in evidence that's not admissible under normal process or procedure.
Okay,
Same objection as the other ones where an individual's photograph is injected, although my client's not.
so then we're talking about what page number now?
Page 34, I apologize.
Okay,
Page 34 is the same objection as the previous slide that looks just like this one, except in picture is being changed.
okay,
Crop a photo into the diagram. Page 35. We would object to page 35. It is
It's in evidence.
correct.
So what possibly could you object to something that is it's already in? It doesn't come out now. They could show to Investigator Miller everything in evidence already. You might argue cumulative if all he's going to say is that's a picture of green sneakers.
That's the concern that I have.
Okay.
It's not.
All right. Only one slide left.
This is definitely, in my opinion, first of all, I don't know who took the picture of an affidavit of an arrest warrant. We're also cropping my client. This is a clip from the video. So now it's cumulative because this is a picture of our client in the video that the court has approved. Thumbs up video. And this is now another shot of the same picture of the co-defendant in this case on slide number 36 as the same picture of the co-defendant in slide number 34. So all we did is just make the picture of the co-defendant a little bit smaller from the size of it in 34. And now we have it again, moving it around down in slide number 36. It's cumulative. This is more prejudicial than probative. There is a warrant signed by an officer that's not in evidence in this case. It would be no different than the police report being brandished on the screen, which the jurors should not have access to.
Got it. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Pritchett. How are you doing? Do you have any objections beyond the one? You're free to join in Ms. Mignot's objections. I'm wondering if, let me make the record clear. The PowerPoint we're discussing is something you received yesterday. So you've had it for a while. And I want to know if you've got any objections to the content of the PowerPoint. This will be used, if at all, through the state's gang expert, a guy named Investigator Miller, who is going to talk with the jury about YSL and what it means to be a member of a gang, et cetera, et cetera. And you and I have just heard from Ms. Mignot, her objections on behalf of Mr. Robinson. I want to know if you got any objections to the content of the PowerPoint that are different from Ms. Mignot's. You can join in all of them, but if you've got additional ones, I would like to know what those are.
I would like to join in on all of them. I did receive it yesterday. I'm not sure if that is for a while, but from what I've seen, on the objection specifically on page 35, which are
35 is the sneakers.
sneakers, and I understand you said that's pictures and evidence.
Sure. That doesn't mean you can't object. Ms. Mignot had one.
Yeah, I object because
I mean, it's
believe that's
stupid,
a
but you can do it.
false Picture of what the actual color of the shoes were. Now I understand that that is the color of those shoes and the color of the men's gang is what the connection is trying to be made.
Got it. And you had, that's why you were sharing with the witness the picture that you had of the shoes that's not with blue light or something, and they were more yellow.
Yes, yeah.
And it was all.
The owner of the shoe that testified said that this was not an accurate picture of the shoes.
Okay. All right. Anything else about the PowerPoint?
I mean, nothing besides, the fact that I guess joining in, some of the things here, a lot of the things are not coming from, the source being me, so.
It's evidence outside the evidence of this case. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Okay. Got it.
It's cleaning it up for him pretty good there,
I
Judge.
guess that's it, what I
Okay. Thank you. Deputy Gordon, when you get a chance, if you could rotate the podium monitor delicately back towards Ms. Mignot. Mr. Hiles, I would like your thoughts about, I'm going to oh, you did unshare. Thank you. Tell me why slide 15, which should be on the screen now, should stay in, given slide 14, coupled with the concerns Ms. Mignot raised that Mr. Pritchett has adopted.
Will you please briefly, can I see it go to the slide before it, just so I can see exactly what that says?
Sure, it says the word hybrid.
It's
Yeah,
just
it does.
demonstrative,
All right,
Judge.
you go
That's
down
what he's
now
gonna
to
say.
slide 15.
Yeah.
He's now explaining hybrid, so what you have on the left, and he will explain that this is not somebody in this particular case.
Right.
But what you have is a known CRIP member that is displaying one of the YSL signs, which is to wipe your nose. And then on the other side, you have a known sex money murder member. And so that's how they come together. They're known to be made up of sex money murder and rolling 60 scripts specifically. And then if you see the lyrics that are saying right below it, banging 5 stars like Dallas, banging 5 stars is a direct reference to sex money murder, the 5 stars of the Blood Gang. And then in my CRIP partner got headaches. I can't remember what the cheeks are. He can tell you it's a specific, but anyways, money real green like lettuce. So it's saying that I am claiming both as one. And that's the explanation why those two, that is further
Blue
explanation
and
of
tan
the hybrid game
with a nice hand
visual
wave.
of how the Crips and sex money murder bloods come together.
Got it. Slide 18, there were concerns that they had been modified to show how one can see YSL in a hand gesture. I don't have a problem with this slide. It's staying in. What is the necessity then and non-cumulative nature of 19?
So 19 is a different sign and symbol that is used by YSL. There's two. There's one which is page 18.
Yep.
Which is you can see where he will tell you that he modified it to share the YSL.
I'm not worried about that, but yes.
And then the single finger you see there.
Yes.
It is known to wipe your nose.
Yep.
It's called wiping slime from your nose. So he is showing the two known hand signs that are known to be part of this gang that are often demonstrated by the defendant in the videos that have already been. So
Is investigator Miller going to talk about who any of those three people are, or just that those are three examples, much like on 18, it is actually 4 examples of the other hand sign?
The last time we did this together, we did not talk about it.
Good. Let's not talk about who those people are. It will just be demonstratives of that other hand sign. And I will note that the name Slat is tattooed on one finger, and on the other, that makes it all the more relevant to this case.
Without naming the individual, I would like to bring up Slat when you speak to
You
it.
can talk about Slat all you want. You're not going to have him say, that's so-and-so and that's so-and-so. They are going to be anonymous exemplars of this YSL hand sign. Okay?
Anonymous exemplars of Slat. Now there's a t-shirt.
On 21, is that grave the grave of, or the headstone or marker of a gang member? And he's going to talk about that's who that person is? Or that's some poor random guy's grave that got graffiti on it?
That is the grave of Donovan Peanut Thomas. Donovan Peanut Thomas was the leader of the Inglewood family function of the Bloods that spawned when his death at the hands of some sex money murder and YSL members spawned the actual battle, the gang war that is going on between.
So he's on the other side of the equation. If he walked into a room of YSL guys would be unhappy with him.
Yes.
Okay, so that picture needs to come out.
It needs to come out.
The grave picture does. But I'll give a final rule. I just need to know, was it a private citizen? It's coming out. If it's a guy from YSL named Slat, it's staying in. But it's someone on the other side. And we're not going to have grave defacement as an example of gang activity for this jury. Those are my only questions for you. So here are my rulings. Please remove slide 15.
Which one is slide 15?
The one that's number 15. It's the one where you were going to the Potex, and it's the second hybrid slide. You get the hybrid slide with the 3 vehicles. please remove slide 20 that has
He's
the
in
guy
front of a
with the
couple of
assault
them.
rifle with a snake around it. You can make any record you want. It's coming out, but go ahead and make your record. Should
can roll
the
either
state
way,
somehow
please.
decide it has a right to appeal?
No, I have so there's a picture that was shared in Discovery that I think is going to be, admitted. I know is gonna be admitted, and it was shared, and it is a picture at that video shoot.
I remember, and that's the connection, but these are inflammatory. And in particular, the guy with the two guns, there's so many ways this could be taken in the wrong direction by a juror. It's like, wait a minute, is that like, what is going on there? It is not central to your case. I find that it is the risk of unfair prejudice far outweighs the minimal probative value of this slide.
What I'm asking is, can I replace that photograph with the photograph from the Guns Up video with Slim Santana, where he is holding the AR style pistols with the snake wrapped around? And I can show
You could replace all three of these with that, yes.
Okay.
Because the first one on the left, I don't know, is that in a jungle somewhere? I mean, what the heck is that? I know that Miller will talk about it, but it interjects all sorts of, like, they connected with a guerrilla organization in the Congo. That's not what this case is about. Similar with the middle picture. The guy's wearing red. There's no green in there at all. This is a dude with a lizard on him. The last one, I could see you drawing a connection, but too many guns and don't know who this person is. You've got the exemplar you need. So if you want to use that photo of a defendant in this case, in lieu of what's in 20, you can have that foot of the language on there. It's not the issue. It's the three pictures.
Yeah, that rolls right off.
To
the
which
tongue.
there's been lodged an objection that I'm sustaining.
Understood.
Okay. I think that's it, because you told me about the grave. All the other objections I am overruling. I find either that there's not a 403 issue. For none of the others is there a 403 issue. And I mean that either because I find that the probative value is not substantially outweighed by any undue prejudice.
I don't
think there's a whole lot of undue prejudice out there. They aren't great photos, especially ones that are of the defendants, either defendant. But I also don't think there's a risk of confusion. That may arise, but that would require Investigator Miller to testify completely differently than he has in the past. My experience is, and the record will need to show it in this case, is that he's not going to attribute any Instagram post to either of these defendants if they weren't theirs. And I think that it is the role of a defense attorney, if he or she thinks that there has been confusion in gender, to clear it up on cross-examination. That is one of the purposes of cross-examination. So to recap, 15, that's the second hybrid slide, is out. And 20 is being replaced in toto, except maybe the language at the bottom, with that picture of young slat with the snake and the gun. And 21, you're removing the photo of the grave, headstone, whatever you want to call it, that has slat spray painted on it. Okay. All the objections that Ms. Mignot made are preserved.
All objections.
Mr.
Can you hear me
Pritchett
now?
has adopted all those, so he's protected in that space as well. And he added an additional one concerning slide 35 about the color of the sneakers, but those are all overruled. Mr. Hiles, your first witness is not Miller, so you're going to have time to have your production team make these fixes and then get the PowerPoint back to Ms. Mignot and Mr. Pritchett so they can confirm that the changes were made?
Yes, I don't anticipate Mr. Milgram for that.
Fantastic. That means after 2:00, because lunch is at 1. Anything else from the state?
Yes, before we bring the jurors in, I do anticipate a firearm being introduced today, and I just wanted to make sure that with my second witness after we finish Ms. Cowish, the immediate witness would be tendering the firearm. And so
give me the context to where a firearm enters this case. I don't.
When Mr. Pritchett was arrested,
Shit, just the mic is muted.
A person trying to sneak out of the
Is that better?
from him, a female carrying a bag that Officer O'Hare stopped. and it was the AR style pistol that was actually featured in the Play Nasty videos.
Got it. Okay. But you've run, as long as you've run that by, he's cleared it. Okay. All right. Anything else from the state? All right. Ms. Mignot, your turn.
So we would object to a replacement slide as,
Which one? The replacement as in well, you'll have to look at it and then you can make an objection to that.
okay, as it pertains to a weapon, I'm completely concerned. The state has not shown me a weapon.
All right, how about now? Can you hear me?
These victims that have already testified barely described a weapon. In fact, any description is inconsistent. And now we have the state attempting to try to introduce a firearm in this case that, one, was not collected at the scene. Two, my client was arrested a month, I think, after this incident. Was not
Thank you,
arrested
Amanda.
at the same time Mr. Pritchett was arrested. And in my opinion, it's gonna create confusion if the weapon is introduced into this case, because I don't think that there's
I'm
any
giving her all
evidence
she's got.
associated with that. So, one, I haven't seen the weapon, and two, this is the first time I'm realizing that the state is saying, because normally when I have a weapon in a case, it's, here's the weapon we found, this weapon is connected, we are for certain, because we've done ballistics on the weapon.
Well, it doesn't always have ballistics and you know that. But what is the relevance of this gun? Let's say, for example, when, and I'm making this up, but when Mr. Pritchett was arrested, he had some drugs on him, but they were in no way, that wasn't the nerds or the box of wax or anything like that. Some stuff that happens at an arrest that's not evidence of flight, or if he had Mr. Carmody's ID in his pocket, that would all come in.
Yeah.
But other things that happen during an arrest that aren't evidence of flight don't necessarily come in. So other than it's a big scary gun, what's the potential relevance?
So when you see that, I intend to introduce him by 5 cam of arrest, and so Mr. Pritchett is sneaking in, like he is tipped off that the
I haven't said anything. Maybe that's what's better.
And he is sneaking into a hallway with his head covered, and then 2 girls are trying to peel off into the stairway carrying a bag, right?
Yeah.
And they split at the same time. Mr. Pritchett's taken into custody, the girls are taken into custody, and they were trying to, they were not arrested, but the weapon came out of young man's apartment where they were trying to flee from, and was arrested simultaneously, or collected simultaneously with Pritchett's arrest. And it is
Are they going to come in and testify and say, Mr. Pritchett asked us to take the gun?
Yeah.
Okay. So all you have is that they were stopped, their stuff was taken. Was there something in the bag along with the gun that says this is Mr. Pritchett's property?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was, what I'm saying, it's an AR style pistol that was taken from the area where the robbery was planned, allegedly, the testimony has been, and it was taken in conjunction with his arrest. That would,
How many days after the incident?
Call a witness.
I believe it was on November 22nd when the defendant was arrested. And it's also, you can look at the guns from the Play Nasty video, and you can see
In which Mr. Pritchett does not appear,
Pritchett's not here.
right?
Mr. Robinson does.
Who's not arrested with 2 girls, one of whom has a gun in the bag she's carrying.
But the argument is, how do you know that's a real gun? This is a real firearm. It can be attested to.
Okay. I'm going to think about whether the gun comes in.
All right.
Okay. Ms. Mignot, anything else before we bring the jury in?
Oh, sweet Jesus. He takes under
Just
advisement.
One thing, Your Honor, the exhibits that were entered into evidence yesterday, defendants exhibits 16 and 17,
The immunity letters.
the immunity orders, those are orders that were filed in this case.
Yep.
And they were also certified originals from the clerk's office.
Okay.
The court admitted them, I believe, and I just want to make sure the record is clear.
They are both, 16 and 17 are both part of the record.
Okay.
I don't know whether you put them up there, but they are part of the record. Defendant Robinson, 16 and 17, both part of the record.
Now, I believe that they should be, the court excluded them from being published yesterday.
Correct.
To the jury. And I'm concerned and I need to object on the record to the court's decision not to allow certified documents that are self-authenticating to be published to the jury, especially when the document.
What makes them not hearsay just because they're certified?
Well, here's the issue. They were.
How about this?
So it's an exception.
Stop,
to the
stop,
hearsay.
please. Do you have any objection to 16 and 17 actually going out with the jury during deliberations? Think about what they say and whether you have any objection with 16 and 17 going out with the jury. Do you? Yes or no?
Will you give them instruction again?
Yes, I will talk about what immunity means in this case. Done. They'll go out with the jury. And if you want through an appropriate witness to publish them, you can, but they'll go out with the jury.
Thank you.
All right, anything else?
That's the last concern.
Fantastic. Mr. Pritchett, you had mentioned that you might call some witnesses, and I asked you last night to get those names together, much like you're entitled to a witness list from the state, which your lawyer had for a long time. The state is entitled, and Ms. Mignot is entitled to the names of witnesses. If they're already on the state's witness list, that's not their business. If you're going to call Ms. Riley back to the stand, or you're going to call investigator Covington, whoever that is, they don't need notice of that. But if there's someone not on the state's witness list, and not Ms. Riley's parents or Ms. Kallish's parents, because we know about them as potential witnesses through Ms. Mignot, now's the time for you to let everyone know who those witnesses are.
Can I have, to the end of the day, still was gathering together, and like I said, well, like you said my attorneys had state's finalized witness list. They did not have that.
Okay.
That was furnished on me second, third day of trial. But like I said, I just want to, at the end of the day, to possibly get you.
So before you leave here today, you will tell me either I've got no witnesses I'm going to call, or these are the witnesses who are not on this. You have the state's witness list with you, correct?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. So you'll let me know by the end of the day who you're going to call, if you're going to call anyone.
I'm gonna try to.
Okay. Well, let me put it differently. If you don't, any name you don't give me by the end of the day today, you're probably not going to be able to call, because everyone is entitled to notice of who those witnesses are. And I gave you the deadline of this morning. I appreciate that because of choices you've made. It's more complicated for you to sort through that, but it will be end of day today. So before you leave and head out of here, that you'll need to commit. These are the witnesses I'm going to call. You can always decommit. You say, look, I'm going to call these 4 guys, and you can change your mind and not, but everyone's entitled to spend the weekend figuring out what they can about these witnesses. And let me caveat in this way. If any of the witnesses is what we'd call an alibi witness, someone who would come in to say, Mr. Pritchett wasn't there that night, he was with me. I remember November 8th, 2019, and I was in Smyrna, and the guy was with me. You've missed the deadline for alibi witnesses. There are all sorts of laws surrounding that. Notice has to be given far, far, far in advance, and not just who they are, but what they're going to say. That this is the alibi. He was with me. We were bowling in Smyrna at 3 a.m. So just to manage your expectations, if the names you were going to drop on us were, these guys are going to say I wasn't there, that's a deadline that has already passed. Not just for you, same for Mr. Robinson. If Ms. Mignot is going to say, hey, I just thought of a witness I want to call, who's going to say that Tyrone Robinson was in Buford sleeping too late. Okay?
How come I didn't know that?
Because you're not a lawyer and you chose to represent yourself. All right, let's bring the jurors in, please.
Oh, that's right.
Let me get Brad.
Thank you. Actually, you're up first, Mr. Pritchett. It's if you're going to be doing cross-examination. Well, she's with her car right now. Oh, okay, great. So when she comes back, we'll get started. Great. We have a juror, this doesn't need to be on the record. We have a juror who got a flat tire in the garage and had called AAA and was going to need to take a break. It turns out that now is the time when AAA showed up. So when she gets back, we will start with Ms. Kalish. Ms. Kalish, false alarm. We've got a juror who's dealing with a flat tire. So you should just be at ease. We'll bring you in here in a minute. I had forgotten I didn't know that the juror had stepped out. So Mr. Howes grabbed you, but if you just go back to wherever you were hanging out, we'll get you. Thank you.
Is she going back to her house?
See if I can connect with Mr. Zimmerman. I attempted.
You just be reachable because when we start up, we need you back. Go for it.
The wheels of justice are going to roll you right into the Wayne County Jail.
All right, I'll hang out for a little bit. It's been a rough morning. We've had a frozen stream, although that was actually kind of good because I think I got the highlights of the 8 hours of yesterday. I'll edit the back of it.
Plus, he's in the bar directory. This is not a state thing.
I said, I don't know if I spelled it.
That's fine, I'm good.
Judge, should I have 2 seconds to?
As long as there's a prosecutor in here, we're good to go.
There were drugs involved that were given to me that ended up being glue. Like I smoked some glue and stuff. I thought I was smoking crack.
Let's go. You didn't say the cat jumped on his wiener, did you? Sit down and shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Cat jumped on his wiener. Cat jumped on his wiener. Shut up. Cat jumped on his wiener. Cat jumped on his wiener. Shut up. Cat jumped on his wiener. Cat jumped on his wiener. Shut up. Cat jumped on his wiener. Cat jumped on his wiener. Shut up.
Kelly's a genius. That's all there is to it.
Can you just let this go for one? Okay, that being
Yeah. This song is better than anything that these guys put out by a wide margin. And now I shall do interpretive dance. We're going to reenact the state's case with movements. Now breathe deep. All the way in. Let it out slow. I've got a limited collection of songs, which is whatever was randomly plopped onto my device from YouTube or somewhere. I don't even know. I don't know any of them. The only one that's good is It Gets Worse. The rest are awful.
Miss Manero and Mr.
Still something called night driving.
His are aesthetic. They're over here. For O'Hare, not for Wednesday. He's coming. Just that he arrested Mr. Pritchett, and then when they go in to arrest him, it's inside the apartment.
Yeah, that wasn't.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, it's just. I'm not talking about the weapon. I'm just talking about this. It shows the inside, and it shows the paintings, and it shows that this is Ross Collins' house. The judge is going to decide whether or not. I don't have any control of that. But it has to do with the code. Yeah, I wanted you to know that I was doing it. So it was turned over in discovery.
Oh my God, all this. We still don't have a witness yet.
Yeah, of the arrest of Mr. Pritchett.
Right.
Remember that?
I do.
Okay.
How long is it?
It's 10 minutes and I'm not.
I like that. I'm feeling that. I'm feeling it, Andrea.
They made entry and then the part where you can see the inside of the.
I don't have yodeling. I don't have my yodeling pickle. I don't have my screaming goat. I got nothing here. I got no props. It's a very sad situation. Come on, everybody. Sing along. Y'all know the words.
Yeah. So it's gonna be.
Wait, there aren't any.
Imagine it's gonna be one of these. This is the action. This is the action. You go to the bigger.
Yes.
What's it?
This is 8 inches.
That's not it.
Right. I haven't seen it from now.
I changed.
Sure is.
Yeah, one to.
We're having fun with demonstrative exhibits.
Wait. You have 30.
Yeah.
Well, that's fun. In honor of Chili, let's give him a salute.
17.
Oh, it was a doozy. You can catch it all on my first stream from today.
Hey, it's Robert.
It was up to my usual standards.
My phone works. That's kind of exciting. They had the. Yeah, they brought in one of the new ones with the color screen and everything. And it's good to have a phone in the courtroom. So we're live. I check our number. Thanks for answering.
Yes. No, I'm gonna go over to my car. I'll go.
We're good? Okay, excellent. All
Bye.
right, the jurors are ready. Mr. Hiles, take a seat, please.
That kind of morning.
Mr. Hiles, we need to do this during a different break. Can you get Ms. Callahan in this way, please?
I got it.
You got it? Great. Mr. Hiles, you ready for the jury?
Yeah, yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Mignot, you ready for the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Pritchett, you ready? When the jury comes in, I'm going to ask you if you've got any questions for Ms. Callis. You ready to go? Well, okay, I'm bringing the jurors in. Let's do it.
All right, Mr.
Well, not that it matters. They've been on so many times, people are waving to him at the Piggly Wiggly at this point. But since I don't have the fun picture, you got me instead.
Thank you, Deputy Gordon. You all can be seated. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I understand someone has some tire woes. I'm grateful to whomever or whatever that it happened down here as opposed to close to home, but it sounds like whatever it is fixed. We're in a happier space. Good. Thank you for making that happen. That's what we needed to do. When we broke yesterday, Ms. Kalish was on the stand, and she's coming this way. Good morning, Ms. Kalish. She's going to return to the stand. She will remain under oath, and we had completed Ms. Mignot's cross-examination of Ms. Kalish. And so I'm going to now turn to the accused to see if he has any cross-examination questions for Ms. Kalish. And if he does, he should come on up to the podium.
Okay, this may be worth it. We got Big Dummy and Cross here.
How are you doing, Ms. Callis?
I'm well. Thank you.
That's good.
Strong start.
Can you just restate what is it that you're doing in life right now?
I'm a personal trainer in the morning, and I am a waitress at a casual fine dining restaurant in the evening. And I also just completed my paralegal certification in December.
She got the same software as Regier.
How many interviews did you have with detectives regarding this incident?
With detectives? I'm unsure.
Was it more than one? Was it?
I believe so.
Do you recall when the first interview was?
When I first was asked questions, I believe that was the same day I got arrested, November the 16th.
That was the day that you, I believe, willingly came in to get questions?
Correct.
Okay. And now you said you testified previously that in a portion or the first part of your interview, you were holding things back.
Correct.
And then in the second part, you took the opportunity to tell the truth, but you held back, identity of problems that you were, thinking about holding back as far as one of the individuals that you say were with you.
Correct.
Oh, she can identify you. Based on her prior testimony, she's very familiar with you.
That day that the incident occurred, was that the first time you were at that house?
Are you talking about Young Band's house?
No, excuse me, sorry. Was that your first time that you were at 1040 Wiley Street?
That was not my first time at 1040 Wiley Street.
Oh, no, the house where I committed the robbery.
What was
That's
what
what
was
I'm
the
talking
previous
about.
occasion that you were there?
2 years prior for a party.
So you were there 2 years ago for another party.
Correct.
Can you briefly just describe, the environment then, the atmosphere then of that party?
It was a party on a flyer that was sent around multiple high schools around my area. And it was high school people, a bunch of people, I would say maybe 30 plus.
Do you remember who threw that party?
I do not.
Was there any drugs in attendance of that party?
Just marijuana, I believe.
In 2019, were you currently using drugs?
I was.
What can you describe what
Every
your
day.
drug usage was like in 2019?
I'm sorry, what was that last
Describe
part?
what your drug usage was like in 2019.
Heavy, almost every day, marijuana, Percocet, Xanax, anything that I could find.
Glue, whatever you got.
That day that you and Lauren arrived at Young Band's apartment, do you remember Lauren asking Young Bands if he had any perks?
I don't remember that.
When you arrived there, how many individuals did you say were at that apartment?
Lauren, myself, you, Young Bands, and two other people, a male and a female that I do not know, and they weren't involved.
Was there any drug uses at Young Band's apartment?
I can't remember.
So in the car on the way to the apartment, you and Lauren had no discussion that you guys wanted some perks.
That's a very high possibility, but I'm unsure if I remember that exact conversation.
You know Young Bands as a rapper, correct?
Correct.
How many other rappers do you think you know?
At the time, I felt like I knew a good bit, but just hung out with them, never knew them to a personal level.
And according to your knowledge, you thought Bands and Rick were part of YSL?
I was not under the impression that it was YSL.
What impression?
I wasn't sure.
Did you think or not think that they were part of any gang?
I wasn't sure.
Do you recall in your first interview with Maldonado, excuse me, sorry. Yes, in your first interview with Maldonado, do you recall stating that you never saw the males, but you heard suspects, but you never saw the males?
Correct.
Okay. Now pointing just to the part of the interview where you said you took the opportunity to tell the truth. Do you remember stating in that part of the interview, telling the detective that you found it weird that the guys you say you were with told you they did not want to enter the house because it was not their scene, so they stayed in the car?
Correct.
And the gentleman, the male Rick, and the male that you say is Baby Slat, did you ever see those males enter 1040 Wiley Street?
I did not.
And the gentleman that you know as Rick and Baby Slat, did you ever see them leave 1040 Wiley Street?
I did not.
And when you were in there, you said you heard commotion, but you didn't actually see what was going on?
Correct.
So there's a possibility that the two males that were supposedly in that 1040 Wiley Street address could have been other males beside the male Rick and baby Slap.
I'm unsure how to answer this. Yes, there's a possibility it could be somebody else.
But it's not likely.
And on the way to 1040 Wiley Street, did you ever see the male that you were with any firearms?
I didn't see any firearms on the way over there.
To kind of, get a picture of what the ride there or the ride back from 1040 Wiley Street looked like.
We would expect nothing less.
Where were you sitting in the vehicle on the way to 1040 Wiley Street?
I can't remember.
I mean, you can't remember front or back or left or right, or like literally, I wasn't driving, but I was in the car.
Correct.
But you were in the car, you just don't know where you were sitting at in the car.
Correct.
And who was driving the vehicle?
I believe Lauren was driving the vehicle.
But you are unsure? Or because you said you believe, do you know for sure Lauren was driving the vehicle?
I don't know for sure. I would assume so because it's her car, but I don't want to say yes and not have it be accurate. I just can't remember for
Okay.
sure.
In your encounter with the gentleman that you know as Rick, do you remember seeing any tattoos on him?
I don't remember.
So you don't remember seeing any tattoos around his upper body, upper shoulder area?
I can't remember that. I'm sorry.
Okay. Is this your first time participating in something like this?
Yes.
Do you know other individuals that might have participated in something like this?
I do.
Who are those individuals? Are they males, females?
I'm sorry. I think I'm not understanding the question.
You said you knew other individuals that participated in things like this, in what happened in this incident.
I'm
Like this,
sorry.
you're talking by this, you mean a home invasion?
Home invasion, armed robbery.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, but drugs, yes.
Okay. Um,
No pressure now. Take all the time you need.
Are you familiar with the YSL gang?
As in,
Are you familiar with the YSL gang?
I know of it. I don't know people in it.
So that entire night of on 2019, did you ever see the male that you know as Rick with a firearm?
Next to one,
You said he was next to a firearm. When was he next to one?
when everything was laid out on Ban's bed in his apartment.
And what was all laid out on the bed?
Edibles, wax, the guns, the masks.
Okay. And that was it. That was all laid out. That you can recall. That was it.
From what I can recall, yes.
Do you remember the phone call at the end of your interview with Maldonado that you had with your mother?
Not well.
So do you know, according to what your belief is, do you know if you told her a lie or a truth, or both, or a mixture?
I can't recall the interview with my mom. I stopped it before I got on the phone with her.
Meaning when you were reviewing, like you talked with the jury about yesterday, when you got to that part of the interview, when you were talking with your mom on the phone, you stopped the interview.
Correct.
Okay. So you recall historically you had a conversation with your mom. That's nothing you've refreshed yourself with.
Correct.
So you testified that, to make sure it's correct, that you came over to Young Man's apartment to hook up with the people that were there, or Young Man's and the gentleman that you described as Rick.
Correct.
Did you and Rick have sex?
Not vaginally, but orally sex. Oral sex, yes.
Has Rick or anybody outside of Rick ever paid you for vaginal or oral sex?
No.
Ma'am, are you a whore?
Do you know any male gang members? Do you know or associate as friends or whatever with any male gang members around that time in 2019?
Around 2019, correct.
Who?
I'm unsure how to answer that. I can't think of names right now. At the time, I thought there were only like Bloods, Crips, GD, but no divisions under that. I just thought the people that wore red were Blood, the people that wore blue were Crip. If I was hanging out with somebody that was wearing red, thought they were a Blood. If I hung out with somebody that was wearing blue, thought they were a Crip.
Okay. Do you know if Lauren and Young Bands had sex that night?
I don't know.
Okay. And you never performed any sexual favors for anybody for money or drugs?
Objection relevant.
Okay. I think you heard what I heard. So there's an objection to relevance. You also already asked her that. So let's move away from that topic. Okay.
Okay. The relevance was just that
You already asked it once and she's answered it. So I'm ruling on asked and answered. In fact, your question was, just to be clear, you said, and she did say, and so the jurors will remember the answer. And I'm gonna ask you to move to a different topic.
I just threw in drugs just to clarify. She
Okay.
said no to money. I just wanted to see if it was also a no to drugs.
Okay. Well, I'm shit for drugs either.
Not for drugs either.
Exciting and new.
That was actually an accident.
On on the day of the incident, when you went inside the house, did you participate in any of the drug uses at the party?
I'm sure I smoked some weed or ate an edible.
Did you personally take anything from 1040 Wiley Street?
Personally, no.
Did you know that Lauren took edibles from 1040 Wiley Street?
I did. May I actually say it was the THC wax, not the edibles that she took?
You may, and you have.
Sorry.
It's okay.
In your interview with Detective Maldonado, did you ever mention the name Max?
Think I just said Rick.
Do you recall yesterday when you testified under the questions of Miss Mignot that you told her that you did say the name Max to Detective Maldonado? Do you remember confirming that to her that you did say that name?
I do not.
So the only names you mentioned to the detective in your first interview and the second interview were Rick, Slime, and Baby Slat.
I would have to clarify.
You can clarify.
Like, watch the video and clarify again. I don't want to make a false testimony.
I thought you were researched with your case and your interviews.
I watched them, but I can't remember every aspect of both 2-hour interviews. I apologize.
So do you remember the name that you mentioned in the interview? Do you remember all the names that you mentioned in that interview?
I'm sorry, may you ask that?
Do you remember all of the names that you mentioned to Detective Nat and Maldonado in their interview?
I'm sorry, I'm still confused on the question.
Do you recall from your review of the interview or views you had with Detective Maldonado, how many different names or nicknames or monikers you provided them as the names you understood the people you were with to have?
And just to clarify, I'm speaking directly about the people that you said were with you.
Okay. I remember saying slime. I remember saying there's something with a snake. I remember spelling out baby slat -1 T. I remember saying Rick Rare.
Before that question, you said Rick, and now you're saying you said Rick Rare.
I'm sorry, Rick Rare. There were multiple different names, correct?
So you remember that, do you recall, sorry, that the first time you said Rick was Rick Rare was after the detective showed you a photo of Rick Rare's Instagram?
I don't recall that. I'm sorry.
No further questions.
Mr. Hiles, do you feel a need to engage in any redirect examination?
Yeah, we'll clear a few things up from yesterday.
Okay. That means everyone else will do redirect or recross.
Understand.
Okay.
All right. Ms. Cowlish, were you arrested? I mean, you're charged in this case.
I am.
Okay. And as a criminal defendant in this case, were you provided full discovery with the interviews, police reports, and everything associated with your prosecution?
With me, correct.
Okay. And was that turned over to your attorney?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
That the discovery, did you obtain that discovery through your attorney?
Correct.
Okay. And when you were asked yesterday if you were researching this case, were you referring to reading your discovery that was given to you as a criminal defendant?
I
Overruled. Did you understand the question?
I did.
Your answer is?
I was just watching my own stuff.
Who made that objection?
Researching, no. Reviewing my stuff and what's going on with me, yes.
And I'm going to direct you back to State's Exhibit 25.
Ah. It sounded like someone was falling over.
Something's wrong with the top monitor?
It's not.
Oh, sorry about that. Another part of this great setup. I can't see it.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm gonna start asking questions while that's loading up. All right, do you remember the conversation yesterday that we had where I asked you to identify your Instagram target number?
Correct.
And I asked you also to interview and identify the Instagram target number of the 1,100 baby slapped.
Correct.
And the conversation that is before you, you don't need to read, we're not gonna read the whole thing again. What date is the first message of that particular conversation?
I'm sorry, there's a
Oh, yeah, stay mute.
okay.
Thank you.
It says 11/9/2019 at 5:27 p.m.
Okay. And what is the number that sent that text message?
187542620.
then you see where my cursor is?
I do.
What does that message read?
Well, we need to sell that shit and get a big dinner because I need some crab legs stat.
What was the ID number associated with that?
187542620.
And the message directly after that, what did that say?
Just chill.
And what is the unique, the target number that sent that message?
307-640912.
And the very last message in this text chain, what does that message say?
What's the word baby slat?
Okay. And is that you sending that message?
It is.
Okay. Stop sharing real quick, and I want to turn your attention to state's exhibit 29. These are what identified as the business records of 1100 Baby Slap. Will you please read the, oh, I got it. It's taking a second to share. When it does share, will you please read the target number associated with 1100 Baby Slap?
307-640912.
Okay. I'm going to stay within state's exhibit 29. Now, inside that state's exhibit 29, I am turning to the linked media label associated with the account. Staying inside the linked media of that same Instagram records, do you recognize the person depicted here?
It looks like the individual I know as baby slat.
Okay. And is that the baby slat that you were conversing with in that last set of text messages that we were talking about?
Correct.
Okay. And do you see that individual in court here today?
May I stand?
May.
I do.
Okay, will you please identify him by where he's sitting and what he's wearing?
To my right hand side, in my point of view, wearing a gray suit.
Okay. And is that the same baby slat that you testified to rode to and from 1040 Wiley Street in Miss Riley's car?
Correct.
Okay. And who else was in that car when you left young Van's apartment to go to 1040 Wiley Street?
Myself, Lauren, Rick Ware, same person, and baby slat.
Okay. And do you see that person, Rick Rare or Rick, in this courtroom today?
I do.
Will you please identify him by what he is wearing and where he is sitting? You may stand.
He is also sitting on the right side, in my point of view of the courtroom, wearing a navy jacket and a black turtleneck.
Okay. And I'm sorry to be insensitive, we covered this briefly, but is that the individual that just questioned you?
It was.
Okay, and is that the same Rick that rode in that car with you?
It is.
Is that the same Rick that you testified to engaging in sexual acts with?
It is.
Okay. Now, you did testify, or did you testify that you actually did not see those two Baby Slat and Rick enter the party?
Correct.
Okay. But when you came to the party, did you have edibles, drugs, or anything of that nature?
We did not.
Okay. And did anybody else get in or out of Miss Riley's car? Or was anybody else riding in Miss Riley's car with you to and from that incident?
None other than the ones previously stated.
Okay. And when you got back to Young Van's apartment, did you ever see any drugs, guns, or masks?
Yes.
Okay. And who was in possession of those drugs, guns, and masks?
At the time, I would say all of us, but we were all there.
Okay. And what, okay, yeah. All right. I do want to, so I'm gonna do this with you real quick. Share this out. Again, for reference, this is inside the attached videos on the Instagram records of 1100 Baby Slats. There appear to be music attached to that post.
There was music playing.
Okay, and who is the author of that music that's playing attached to that post?
Young bands.
Okay, so is your testimony that is not Young Bands pictured in the photo?
That is not Young bands in the photo.
Is that consistent with an Instagram post sharing Young Band's music?
I'm sorry, may you reword that?
Is that where it says Young Bands, is that the album title of the music playing above? If you look at the
It's the artist of the song, correct?
okay, and what's the song?
Of course, it's blocked out by the way our system works, but, and I want to be clear, like, that's not intentional. It's just our glitchy system. There we go. It was not Mr. Hiles. It wasn't anyone else.
I'm sorry, it says partner in crime, PIC.
Okay. That's all that I have here.
Ms. Mignot, you have an opportunity to recross.
No.
Good morning, Ms. Riley.
This is Ms. Callis.
I apologize. Good morning, Ms. Callis.
Good morning.
You just testified this morning that this is not the first time you had gone to the Wiley Street location.
Correct.
But as it pertains to robberies, you told Detective Maldonado that both you and Lauren were thinking about robbing another drug dealer by the name Maddie, correct?
I'm sorry, that's incorrect.
Okay. You remember having a conversation with Detective Maldonado about Lauren suggesting that you all rob someone else?
She suggested that she wanted to rob somebody else, correct?
And who was the other person that you told Detective Maldonado in the videos that she
I
wanted to
said,
rob?
I'm sorry, I said Mati, M-A-T-I.
Okay. So MATI is a drug dealer, correct? Based on what you told Detective Maldonado.
Correct.
And Lauren had suggested that you and Lauren set up a robbery of this drug dealer, Mati, M-A-T-I, right?
May you repeat the first part of that, please?
You and Lauren had a conversation that you shared with Detective Maldonado, correct? About robbery.
Correct, that she wanted to do that.
Okay. And you informed Detective Maldonado that you had decided that wasn't a good idea because Mati was a big drug dealer.
He had a lot of firearms.
And you were concerned about your safety because that person had arsenal, a weaponry, right?
Correct.
Now, so as it pertains to your testimony this morning, where you say, hey, this is the first time I've been to Wiley Street and the first time I've been to drug parties, but not any parties associated with guns, it would be a little bit different if you had shared that you had had conversations about robberies before, correct?
Correct, but that's not a party.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the layout. Based on the fact that you had been to the 1040 Wiley Street's address before, you were familiar with the layout of the house, right?
I had gone 2 years prior to the incident once.
Okay. And you had been there once, so you would know where the kitchen was the first time you went there, right?
I would say yes.
Okay. You would also know when you come in the door, whether that's a living room or a bedroom, right?
Correct.
So you would be familiar with the layout of the property inside, correct?
Not 100% thorough.
But somewhat familiar.
Somewhat familiar.
Now, you testified that you're not sure about gangs, especially YSL gang. You remember that this morning?
Correct.
And isn't it true that any information that you're providing as it pertains to YSL gang and who you think are members of that gang came from the information law enforcement provided to you?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding.
Okay, so if you have no knowledge of the YSL gang prior to being arrested in this case, and now you are stating that you know my client as Baby Slat and as part of the YSL gang, you're getting that information from law enforcement that spoke to you about this case, right?
I'm kind of confused how to answer, but I think I understand what you're trying to say. I put Slat with blood. I didn't think they were deep gang members. I wasn't sure the YSL portion of that. I just thought gang in general.
And your thoughts have changed based on the information that you've received from Detective Maldonado and other investigators in this case, right?
I learned new information, correct?
That's my point.
Correct.
Now, you're testifying this morning that you saw firearms, correct?
After the fact.
And you originally stated that even after the fact, when you got back, you did not see any firearms. All you saw were drugs, right?
I'm sorry, I testified yesterday that I saw the masks, guns, and drugs.
That's my point. You just said that yesterday. But prior to yesterday, you told Detective Maldonado in your interview on November 16th of 2019 that when you got back to Young Ben's apartment, that you had not seen any guns, correct?
Correct.
So between that interview and yesterday is the first time we're hearing that you saw guns when you returned from the 1040 Wiley Street location, right?
Correct.
Now, counsel for the state, Mr. Hiles, showed you again State's Exhibit 25 and had you read off an Instagram target number.
Correct.
That is not a phone number, correct?
Correct.
And you didn't create the target number,
Correct.
and you don't know who created the target number.
Correct.
You don't even know if the target number is correct, right?
I'm unsure what a target number is in general.
Okay. So you're just reading what you're seeing on the image that the state is putting in front of you, correct?
Correct.
Now, as it pertains to the conversation that the state just read to you, where you said, we need to sell that shit and get a big dinner because I need some crab legs. It doesn't say anything about drugs, right?
Correct.
Doesn't say anything about a robbery, right?
Correct.
Doesn't say anything about guns.
Correct.
Doesn't say anything about, hey, that robbery we committed, I need my money from it now, right?
Correct.
In fact, this, how it's depicted in the state's exhibit, could be a conversation between you and Lauren, right?
I'm sorry, what do you mean?
When you're looking at the screen, your name is not depicted on it, right?
Correct.
So we have to trust you that, yeah, this is my communication to someone, right?
Under those target numbers?
Yes.
Correct.
Now, counsel played looks like an Instagram post of the person that is depicted as the name that's depicted as 1100 Baby Slap in the exhibit that was just played for you.
Correct.
Now, in that video, it has the name Young Bands, right?
It does.
And it's wrong because Young Bands is not my client, Mr. Robinson.
I know.
Okay. So if you're looking at that, somebody has to say, hey, that's not Mr. Robinson.
Correct.
And she did.
Also, the song that is playing is not Mr. Robinson singing, correct?
Correct.
And a post like that could be done by anyone, and any type of song could be posted.
Correct.
So if I posted, say, for example, a picture with the video of Bob Marley, it doesn't mean that I know Bob Marley, right?
Correct.
Wonderful. Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
You're welcome. Excuse me. I'm turning to
Hallelujah.
the accused. Sir, do you have any recross?
Oh, no. Oh, no. Is he toddling over to the
You said
podium
that you
right
didn't
now?
know where in the car you were sitting? You don't remember where?
Correct.
Do you remember rushing or running out of the house that night out of 1040 Wilder Street?
I do.
And Lauren picked you up, correct?
Correct.
And you just don't remember what side of the car you got in?
I do not remember.
You mentioned you knew a gentleman by the name of Monty, correct? Monty.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
MATI, that man
MATI.
you're referring to?
Yes.
Correct.
And you mentioned that he had a lot of firearms.
Correct.
How were you aware of that?
When Lauren and I went over to his house, they were at his house.
Was he a gang member? Do you know?
I have no idea.
What colors did you see him wear? You said you classify gang members by the colors they wear.
I don't know if he was in a gang or anything.
Did he have any tattoos?
I can't remember.
No further questions.
Thank you. Jurors, time for your questions. If you would get them to Deputy Gordon. I'm going retro there. Deputy for a bunch of years. Not as good as Gordon.
Oh, good Lord. Are they going to ask her questions?
Thank you.
You know, that was awkward and horrible on all fronts, but everybody got what they needed. The prosecutor got the witness to put him at the scene. The defense attorney got her to admit repeatedly that she's not credible. So they can both argue their case based on the testimony. The accused went in circles and basically just repeated what the other defense attorney did, less artfully. And it wasn't at a high standard to begin with.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be your morning break. Scheduling wise, we're going to have lunch at 1 today. It is a drug court graduation, which is a very happy event where some people who are in drug court, nothing to do with this case, accountability court, have completed 18 months or more, been sober for a bunch of months. And I have two participants of mine I've been working with for 2 years who are graduating as at 1:30. But I'm going to do that during your lunch so that we don't have to delay things. Be over in Assembly Hall. So we'll have lunch from 1 to 2 today. I'll be back before 2, so we can pick up. I just share that with you for planning purposes because it may be at 12:45. I need to eat. You will eat. It'll be at 1. So eat a lot of snacks now while we go over these questions. Don't talk about the case. No outside research. Mr. Hiles, Ms. Mignot, if you'll cluster over there by Mr. Pritchett, please. You got more? Here you go. Oh, yeah. Here you go. That's it. All right, let's try to get through these, please. You. Question 48 reads, she didn't testify to having a conversation about Percocet in the car on the way to the party. How did the accused know this? I won't be asking that. Question 47 is an observation that Mr. Pritchett has something on his right leg. I won't be saying anything about that either. Just a sec. Other than that, do you have any objection to the remaining questions, Mr. Hiles?
They already flagged it. You think that is?
Ms. Mignon,
Like the same ones I had.
look at that alignment. Mr. Pritchett, yes, sir.
The only one, but the one about Percocet question, I want to clarify exactly how I knew it.
So you don't get to tell stuff to the jury in this case. You may know it from a report. You may know it because you were there. You may know it because someone else told you. It's okay, but it's just not something that the jury gets to answer. The jury could have to switch it around. The jury could have said, how did Ms. Mignot know X, Y, and Z? No, that only a witness can answer something, and this witness isn't the right person to say how you knew something, how Ms. Mignot knew something, how Mr. Hiles knew something. So I understand you know the answer. You also know the answer to what's going on with your leg. That's just not something that this witness can share with the jury. Okay? Did you have objections to any of the other questions?
No.
Okay.
I mean, you could clarify your rules.
Tell me what it's in. How did you learn that?
And I'm not sure. I believe this is exhibit 23 or 24. Lauren's phone and Instagram extract, and just specifically the message say between her and young man. She asked the band, "Do you have a perk club?" The young man says yes, and he asked, "How many do you want?" And
Okay, I'm remembering it now. So it's from either Instagram records or a phone extract.
from Lauren.
Okay, from Ms.
The
Riley.
young man said that he's gonna, upon their arrival, he's gonna tell the plug of the Percocets to pull up, and they're $1 a milligram.
Okay, got it. So that's your source for it. That's not something that I can share with the jury. It doesn't mean it's not in evidence. It just means that this witness didn't remember that. Okay?
It's just the jury, according to the question, you know, they're having observations about, like I said, how I may know that. I would clarify. I mean, but I was wondering if you can do it just, okay.
I can't. That's not my role. One way would be for you to choose to testify. Another way would be through some other witness. You might be able to share that with them. Say, what's this? And I think it's something Ms. Riley actually already talked about some.
Please testify.
And if you give a closing argument, you might say, ladies and gentlemen, you'll recall the text exchange between Young Bands and Lauren Riley, where Young Band said, hey, we'll have the plug for the Percocets there. That doesn't require you to testify at all. That's you making argument to the jury about something that's already in evidence. But it would need to come from you, but you don't get to share things with the jury in that way until closing. Okay? All right, let's bring the jurors back in.
Can I ask one? So the immediate witness after this is going to be Officer O'Hare, and I don't want to bring up Firearm if it's something that you're not going to let them tender.
Okay.
So is that something we can take up right now before we bring the jury in?
Yes, this would be the time to do it. So tell me, use your last shot at making it relevant and not unduly prejudicial.
Understood. Each one of the witnesses / victims testified to a AR style pistol.
No, that's not correct. Some of the victims said AR style pistol. Some said gun. Some said pistol. Some said rifle.
Some said
They're all over the map with what they said the gun or guns look like. Correct?
yes.
Okay.
Submachine gun, AR pistol. Some said pistol.
Some said rifle.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
So a rifle, this is both a pistol and a rifle style. It's got an extended buttstock. And it is the same gun that is depicted in the music video, Play Nasty, which you have already admitted.
You know it's the same gun because someone who was in the video who held it said that was the gun I was holding? Or it looks like it?
It looks like it. You can see the same sight. You can see the same color of the gun. You can see the same style.
Okay. And who was holding the gun in the video?
Yeah, the person standing right next to Mr. Robinson.
Nothing to do with Mr. Pritchett.
Nope.
And yet the gun that you are trying to link, you're actually linking to Mr. Pritchett's arrest, not Mr. Robinson's arrest.
It was covered in an area that this witness testified to guns, drugs being on the bed. And also, I believe J.P. Miller would testify to the fact that guns are shared at large amongst family members.
The gun that you think this looks like in the video is in the Guns Up video or the video filmed in Young Band's apartment?
Video filmed in Young Band's apartment.
Okay. Do you know when that video was filmed?
There is a date published. There's a couple different dates, but it appears to be.
What's the earliest date published? Because it has to have been filmed before then.
In August
Of?
19.
Okay. So
The exact date, I don't wanna cross that line.
you're not, but at least 3 months before, maybe almost 4 months before Mr. Pritchett was arrested, as you describe it, sneaking out of the apartment. And just so I'm fully clear on this, Mr. Pritchett didn't have the gun on him. It was in a backpack that a young lady who was not ultimately charged with anything in this case was carrying.
That's correct.
Okay, gun's not coming in.
Okay, well, that's good.
Great. Anything else you want to clear up with O'Hare?
I wanna.
I know you'll tell him that. Anything you want guidance from me on?
No, I don't want any guidance from you. I don't need any guidance on anything else.
Okay.
But I do just, I'm gonna step out, I'm gonna get it myself and say, hey, we're not gonna talk about
Great. And you're not going to tender the gun. It's not going to come into the courtroom.
that. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Ms. Mignot, anything else about the gun?
Nothing further from respondents.
Mr. Pritchett?
Mr. Robinson.
No. Okay. Then let's bring the jurors in, please. Thank you for flagging that.
Yeah.
All right, jurors.
Hello. Let me see here.
I'll go to the president of the county court.
Thank you, Deputy Gordon. All right, Ms. Callis, a few more questions.
Yes, sir.
You were shown, at least today, I can't remember if also yesterday, a picture that you connected to Mr. Robinson that said Young Bands on it, and then someone pressed play and we even heard some music.
Correct.
I'm gonna call that the media, that I don't know whether that's an Instagram or a Vine or a what. That media, Vine was probably before your time, but that media, is that something you ever received? Like it was on your phone or your account?
No,
Had you seen it before today?
no.
Turning to 1040 Wiley and the evening, early morning of November 8th, 2019. How long would you estimate you were in 1040 Wiley that night? Best ballpark.
I would say ballpark 30 minutes, but I like to base it off of me being able to find something to roll marijuana with, sitting down, breaking that open, clearing that out, refilling it, and using the restroom.
Did you use the restroom? Was part of the operation you were doing with the tobacco or marijuana, was that in the restroom or there were two separate things? You did all those things, then you went to the restroom?
We were sitting at the couch, and then that's when I got up to use the restroom, but that's where the rolling activity was taking place.
At couch or restroom?
The couch.
Okay, and who's the we who was sitting at the couch?
I remember an Asian man sitting near me, and I can't recall the rest, but the a good amount of the people that were at the party were in that room.
Okay. When you left 1040 Wiley, were people like you just described, I'm gonna call them the party goers, were they still inside 1040 Wiley?
They were.
Trying to ask these in kind of a bit of an order. Do you remember anything about what the two males who rode with you and Lauren to 1040 Wiley were wearing that night? Not in Young Band's apartment, but en route to 1040 Wiley, what they had on?
I do not. Specifics are a little hard due to my impairment.
When you say your impairment, meaning?
My lorazepam.
When you were in the bathroom during the home invasion, did you recognize any of the voices yelling at people to get on the floor?
I don't recognize the voices, just male aggression.
Do you recall if either of the two men who were in the car with you that went to 1040 Wiley Street had gloves on at any point?
I do not recall.
Do you recall gloves being part of what was laid out on the bed back at Young Band's when people were looking at the hall?
I can't remember if gloves were there.
Okay. Before you met with the police on November 16th, before November 16th, 2019, did you know Rick Rare's real name?
I did not.
Did you know Baby Slat's real name?
I did not.
Did at any point after, when you were driving home is the wrong phrase, when you and Ms. Riley and the two men were heading back from 1040 to Young Band's apartment, did anyone discuss what had just happened at 1040 Wiley?
There was discussion about it.
What was that discussion? Who said what, as best you recall?
I recall Rick asking if I got hit. At that point, I kind of knew it was way really bad than what it was. He asked if I got hit, and then...
And you took hit to mean like someone was hitting on you, or hit like struck?
Like struck.
Okay.
There was some talk about a physical altercation, like fists. And then when I had walked out of the door, I saw blood on the floor.
At Young Band's or
No,
at 10?
I'm sorry, at 1040 Wiley Street.
Got it. Inside the house or outside?
Inside.
Okay. And are you able to attribute to either the person you're calling Baby Slat or the person you're calling Rick Rare any of the comments of, I hit someone or I had to fight with someone?
I don't remember who said they were hitting somebody. I remember Rick Rare asking if he hit me during the robbery.
Not just did you get hit, but did I hit you?
Correct.
Was there any discussion in the car on the way back to Young Band's apartment about what was taken?
I believe we all understood that edibles and it was just marijuana products.
Did you, while everyone was driving back to Young Band's apartment, see anyone in Ms. Riley's car throwing things out of the car?
Correct. Gentlemen Rick Rare and Baby Slat proceeded to throw the wallets, phones out of the car, including mine.
Including your wallet?
Including my phone.
Your phone?
Correct.
How did it come to be that either Rick Rare or Baby Slat had your phone?
It was left in the car for Lauren and the gentleman, Rick Rare and Baby Slat, to communicate.
Was there any discussion by either Rick Rare or Baby Slat about why they were throwing these things out of Ms. Riley's car?
To not have it on our people, the wallets and phones.
Okay. Those were the words that were used, or that's how you're distilling?
That's how I'm distilling it. I
Okay.
apologize. No, I don't remember specific words.
Okay, but words to that effect?
Correct.
Okay. Do you recall any clothing or accessories, things you would wear that were taken from people at 1040 Wiley that ended up displayed on that bed at Young Vans?
I know there were shoes, but I cannot recall what they looked like.
Are you able to say high heel versus?
A sneaker shoe looked almost like an Air Force One from Nike, but unsure if it was that shoe.
Okay. When all of the proceeds from 1040 Wiley were spread out on that bed in Young Van's apartment, who was in the room looking at this stuff and spreading it out?
Rick, Ware, Baby Slat, Lauren, myself, and Young Vans.
So Young Vans was at his place when you all got back?
Correct.
Explain to the jurors, as best you recall, why the person you knew as Baby Slat was called in to participate in the home invasion instead of the people who were already at the apartment or some other people.
I'm sorry, asking why Baby Slat was called instead of proceeding with the people that were already there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I was unsure why they were calling somebody else. They, as in Young Vans and Rick, both were calling people. Unsure who. The first person did not answer. Then they said, call another person, said Baby Slat's on the way. He never introduced himself as Baby Slat, but it was announced that Baby Slat is on the way.
And did the person you know to be Baby Slat actually come up into Young Van's apartment? Or did you meet him downstairs getting into Ms. Riley's car?
He came up into the apartment.
I can't remember if you were shown a communication from Ms. Riley that had ring cam video on it from 1040 Wiley. Is that something that one of the lawyers shared with you during your testimony?
I believe I've seen the picture. Was it sent from Miss Riley?
Well, that's my question is, how did you or Ms. Riley get ring cam video from 10? It's the juror's question. How did you or Ms. Riley get ring cam video from 1040 Wiley Street?
I believe it was sent to Lauren via Chris Riggs. Then Lauren sent it to my phone.
You explained to the jurors during some of your answers that you were reluctant to use the name Slat, Baby Slat, to identify the second male who was with you and Ms. Riley that night because you were afraid. Were you not afraid of Rick Rare because you seemed to be more willing to use that name?
I don't think there was a specific reason. I was just not forthcoming with full information.
Mr. Hiles, do you have any questions for Ms. Kalish based on what she just discussed?
One question. You said that your phone got thrown out the window. Were you able to get your phone back?
I did.
Okay, how did you get it back?
I said my phone was just thrown out of the window, stopped the car, picked it up. It was the first one I picked up. I remember it had a Chucky wallpaper on it, like the doll Chucky.
That's it. One question. Ms. Mignot, you are not limited to one, but if you have any questions based on the jurors' questions, now is the time.
Your testimony a few seconds ago was the person never introduced himself as Baby Slat. That's the person you said they called, the second phone call they made, right?
Correct.
So the only time you ever identified that person as Baby Slat is a third person said that's Baby Slat.
Correct. But then when I spoke to him, he answered to Baby Slat.
So you're calling the person Baby Slat, they never said, that's not my name.
Correct.
And that's the only reason you're saying, they never said, hey, I'm baby slide.
Correct.
Nothing further, Judge.
And to the accused, sir, do you have any follow-up for Ms. Kalish based on the jurors' questions?
Do you remember your interview with Maldonado where you stated twice that when you were in the car on the ride back from the location at 1040 Wiley Street, that you didn't see anything happening afterwards, you didn't ask?
Which interview was this?
This was the second one where you committed to taking the opportunity to tell the truth. The first, I'll go in order. The first instance where he asked what happened after the incident in the car. The first statement from you was, on the ride back, it was quiet and you listened to music on the ride back from the party. That was your first. Do you recall stating that?
I do.
You call on the second, I believe you went back to that same topic of what happened after the party in the vehicle. You stated and made clear that you did not see anything happen, and afterwards you didn't ask.
Correct.
You stated previously in your testimony that what was laid out on the bed of young man's apartment were the edibles, the weed, and the firearms and masks. And then now you're stating that you recall shoes being on that bed also. Which one is it?
I'm sorry, I don't recall the shoes being on the bed, but I do recall them being taken. I feel like that could be information that I received after the court case.
So you're inferring that shoes were taken after you heard about the court case long enough, basically. That's when you inferred something more than what you've seen on the bed was taken. After the court case blew up and you were able to do your research.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Callis, thank you for coming back today. You are free to step down. Mr. Hiles, next witness.
State call, Stephen O'Hare.
Those were great questions for the defense from the jury. That's telling me that the jury's not necessarily buying the ID. Not that they don't believe it, but they want reassurance on it.
Morning, sir. Right.
Raise your right hand. You swear affirm that the testimony you will give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Sure. You may have seen. You say it's good night,
Stephen O'Hare, STEPHEN O''HARE.
Morning.
Good morning.
Where are you currently employed?
I am employed with the Atlanta Police Department.
Okay. And how long have you been employed there?
I'm in my 32nd year.
And what capacity, what's your role inside the police department?
I am an investigator. I'm assigned to the fugitive unit, which I've been assigned to for roughly 10 years.
Okay. What is the fugitive unit?
Fugitive unit, basically our responsibilities include locating, apprehending violent offenders who detectives for our various units such as like homicide, robbery, ag assault, our sex crimes unit. They'll investigate crimes, obtain warrants for individuals, and they'll assign them to us to go locate them.
Okay. Were you assigned fugitives Max Pritchett and Tyrone Robinson to locate?
I was.
Okay. So how does this assignment process work?
So the investigators who obtain the warrants will bring what's called a fugitive package to our office. That'll include stuff such as the arrest warrants, criminal history of the individual, a photograph, the actual police report for the incident, and the investigative reports attached to that. And basically these files will be assigned to various detectives. If there are multiple suspect cases, the same detective will typically get all the suspects involved in that actual investigation.
Okay. So is it your testimony that it is your job to find wanted suspects after other divisions take out arrest warrants?
That's correct.
Okay. Let's start with Tyrone Robinson. Did you ever
Thank you, Rebel.
were you assigned Tyrone Robinson's file?
I was.
Okay. And who assigned it to you?
It would have been one of the supervisors. I can't tell you specifically at the time.
All right. Who was the lead investigator? Do you remember that?
For the actual case itself,
Yes, for the underlying case.
that'd be Detective Carlos Maldonado.
Okay. And did you arrest Tyrone Robinson?
I did.
Okay, and did you do so yourself?
Myself, along with members of the Atlanta Police Fugitive Unit.
Okay. And what date was that arrest made? Do you recall?
December 6th, 2019.
Okay. And did you get any property off the person of Mr. Tyrone Robinson?
I did. We recovered a iPhone SE.
Okay. An iPhone SE?
Correct.
Okay. And did you turn that iPhone SE into the Armed Robbery Division of Atlanta Police Department?
I did personally.
Okay. And let's turn to Mr. Max Pritchett. Did you yourself arrest Mr. Max Pritchett?
Similar to Mr. Robinson, it was myself along with members of the Fugitive Unit.
Okay. And where did you arrest Mr. Max Pritchett?
We arrested him at 199 14th Street. I think it's the Mayflower condominiums. And he was arrested on the 22nd floor, directly adjacent to apartment 2202, I believe it was.
Okay. And when you originally went to the 199 14th Street, what was your purpose of going there that day originally?
As the lead investigator, I was basically trying to confirm some information related to the location as far as whether or not Mr. Pritchett was there. At the time, I was in plainclothes, interviewing members of leasing, trying to gain some information. So as things unfolded, I was able to determine that I reasonably believed that he was there. So at that point, I contacted members of the Fugitive Unit, but my role at that point was in plainclothes, basically still gaining information, but also watching the front entrance to make sure that he did not walk out.
Okay. And so did you go there to essentially scout or looking for intel?
That's correct.
Okay. And did it quickly turn to an arrest situation?
That's correct. It ended up turning into an apprehension.
Did you participate in the arrest?
Not physically. I was on scene, but I was back behind the stack as they were. The stack is basically what we call a group of individuals that are rolling up to an apartment to effect an arrest such as this. So I was back behind them in a support role.
Okay.
The case agent's on scene. to interview people, to do anything that is assisting in attempting to locate an individual.
Okay, but did you determine an apartment number that was relevant?
I did.
Okay, and did you make entry into that apartment?
I did not physically make entry into it. I was towards the front door.
Okay, great. Were you wearing body camera that day?
I was not.
Okay, and did you, in that stack, were you standing behind or with an officer by the name of Carlos Smith?
I was.
Okay, and as you were with Carlos Smith, were you able to view the events in real time as they unfolded?
I was.
Okay, and I'm showing you what has now been marked in State's Exhibit 33. How do you recognize that?
It is a zip file that contains the body camera footage from Detective Carlos Smith.
Okay, and were you actually present on some of that body camera footage?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, and is it a fair and accurate depiction of the events of that day that you were present for as they unfolded?
It was.
Okay, and have you reviewed that in its entirety?
I have.
Okay, Your Honor, this time the state would tender State's Exhibit 33, body camera footage from the arrest of Max Pritchett from Officer Carlos Smith's body cam footage.
All right. Ms. Mignot, any objection to States 33?
I don't think I have a proper foundation. It sounds like this is for someone else, another officer's footage.
Okay, it is, but based on the questions Mr. Hiles has asked and the answers that Investigator O'Hare has given, much like he doesn't have to be the photographer of a still photo, I find that there is a sufficient foundation for States 33 to be admitted. But you're exactly right. This is not Investigator O'Hare's body camera. Either he didn't have one on him or his wasn't on, is what I understand his testimony to be.
And this was what date, Your Honor?
33.
No, date.
What date did you arrest Mr. Pritchett on?
This would have been November 22nd, 2019.
Thank you.
Sure. And turning to the accused, sir, do you have any objection to the admission of States 33?
Other than I haven't received this clearance.
Okay, meaning you personally haven't received it as opposed to your prior defense team. Noted.
I have one on my
Okay, you may not. I'll admit 33.
And for the record, this was shown to both the accused as well as Ms. Mignot during the first break.
Okay.
So again, Officer O'Hare, please tell the jury why you were not wearing a body camera that day.
As I previously stated, my role initially was obviously I was not going there to present myself as a police officer to the general public. I was trying to maintain some cover of just not being notified as a law enforcement officer. And as things evolved, I didn't have time to actually get my body camera.
So you weren't wearing that shirt that says Atlanta Police Fugitive on the back?
I was not.
Okay, good choice.
The apartment that y'all arrested Mr. Pritchett at, were you ever determine who it belonged to?
It was being rented or subletted. I could never, I can't remember at this time, but I do know it was being subletted at least, I believe, to Voss Coleman.
Voss Coleman?
Yes.
Do you know Voss Coleman by any other names?
Offhand, I do not. It's been several years. I would have probably back then.
I'm not going to play the whole thing, but for you to see it, you're going to have to turn around and apologize. It's not going to be displayed. What is the date displayed at the top left-hand side of the top right of the screen?
That would be November 22nd, 2019.
And I'm gonna play the beginning for about just over 20 seconds. Now, would that be yourself coming out?
That would be.
Okay. And did you ever put on a vest to participate in this?
I did, as the team made entry, I went to my car and retrieved my vest. Unfortunately, my body camera was not on it at the time.
Okay. Now I'm gonna fast forward to 7:43.
You got your door, it's open, both open, okay?
Close as I can.
Yo, we go? Yeah. Clear? Alright. Find the door straight? Yeah, check. Alright, here you go.
Sorry, I'm on this.
Yeah. Clear? Alright. Find the door straight? Yeah, check. Alright, here you go. Alright. We good? Coming out? Good. I got it. Alright, dogs. So this one, everybody flip the other. Alright, let's go back. I got left, I got left. Hey, who with me? Come on. I got left. Step up. Step up, step up. Alright, real quick. Yeah, I hold right there, yeah. Okay.
I know whenever I pause on this, do you recognize the poster or that painting that's on the wall?
I do.
Okay, and who is that painting on the wall of?
Appears to be Voss Coleman.
Hey, don't wrap around, there's no wall here. No, you don't play straight real quick.
And do you see Max Pritchett in court here today?
I do.
Okay. Could you please stand and identify Max Pritchett by where he is sitting and what he is wearing?
Richard is over to my right, wearing a blue blazer with a mask, light blue mask over his face.
Okay. Please let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant Max Pritchett.
Yes.
Okay. And is that the same Max Pritchett that you arrested inside of Voss Coleman's apartment?
Coming out of the apartment, yes.
Coming out of the apartment.
Yes.
Okay. And do you see Tyrone Robinson in court today?
I believe I just saw him over the computer
Would you
screen.
please stand and identify him?
Standing straight ahead or sitting straight ahead next to the young lady in green wearing the gray blazer.
Okay. Please let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant Tyrone Robinson.
Yes.
Okay. And is that the same Tyrone Robinson that you arrested in relation to this particular case?
Yes.
I don't have any further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Mignot, do you have any questions for Investigator O'Hare?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Good morning, Investigator O'Hare.
Good morning, ma'am.
I'm Marcia Mignon. I represent Mr. Robinson. As it pertains to the fugitive squad, your duties are to go pick up people who warrants are issued for, correct?
Correct.
And the name fugitive does not necessarily mean that someone's on the run, correct?
Correct.
And sometimes a warrant is issued for a person and they're not even aware that the warrant was issued.
That's correct.
As it pertains to notifying someone, sometimes you can notify the person, hey, there's a warrant, and the person comes in, now you don't have to go out, right?
We do that sometimes, correct.
Now, as it pertains to this video, you did not find any yellow sneakers associated with the Wiley Street robbery, correct?
I was looking for basically an individual. I wasn't looking for yellow sneakers, so I did not.
Okay. You didn't find any marijuana wax that you could connect to the Wiley Street?
I did not know.
You didn't find any guns that were connected to the Wiley Street incident?
Which location?
This high rise that we're looking at, the video council just showed you, states 23.
You're free to answer that question.
So repeat the question for me.
Okay.
So I'm clear.
So when you went to this location, sir, did you find anything that you gathered that you said, hey, this is connected to the Wiley Street robbery? This is what came from the Wiley Street robbery.
That's a different question than you asked, which is fine. And so you should feel free to ask that and to answer that.
So am I free to answer either question?
No, she has withdrawn the previous question about guns. And so now the question is, was there anything that you were able to say, oh, I can tell that came from the Wiley Street robbery?
Yes, Your Honor. No, I did not locate it.
Okay, thank you, sir. As it pertains to States Exhibit 33, this property does not belong or is not owned by my client, Mr. Robinson, correct?
Correct.
This property, Mr. Robinson, my client, does not live at this property that we just saw in the video.
As far as I know, that's correct.
My client was not present at the property on November the 22nd, 2019, in that video that we saw, correct?
Correct.
And there was nothing connecting my client to that property on the day you went there, November the 22nd, 2019.
That's correct.
So that clip that we just looked at in States Exhibit 33 has absolutely nothing to do with Mr. Robinson or Mr. Robinson being taken into custody, correct?
On the 22nd, that's correct.
Nothing further, Judge.
And turning to the accused, sir, do you have any questions for Investigator O'Hare?
No, sir.
All right, any redirect?
Those back. Well, never redirect, Your Honor.
Okay, any questions from the jurors? Seeing no cards? Yes, it's fine. I don't want to misread you. You guys are kind of stealth question writers. Like, I had no questions, and then. I couldn't remember when we did those. You stayed out here for the, okay. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I need you to step outside for a quick moment. We are going to have a break after we're done with Investigator O'Hare, because I need to give several people here a break, but this is a mini one. So go back there, don't talk about the case, and we'll get you right back in. It's not a whole bunch of questions. Mr. Haas?
Yes, sir.
Oh, man, I gotta get together.
I'm thinking about that.
We're about to get one. Okay, so Mr. Hiles, because of the poor setup in my courtroom, I can't see the videos very well that play just on that screen. I'll work to fix that another time. Did the segment of the video that you played show what you described to me about 3 people sneaking out and women flaring away from Mr. Pritchett?
I didn't play that segment of the video.
Okay, so the jury has right now no information that there were other people temporarily detained at the time Mr. Pritchett was taken into custody.
They do not.
Okay, all right. Ms. Mignot, I don't mean this critically, I'm just observing you created some confusion by asking a question about guns, and everyone got tense, and then now clearly the jurors want to know about it. My inclination is to limit the follow-up for Investigator O'Hare simply to whether he at any point recovered anything in connection with the robbery. That's one of the questions, not just when you got Mr. Pritchett, but were there other times when Investigator O'Hare was working on this case and recovered anything in connection with the robbery? Answer being no, he's on the fugitive squad, that's not what he does, but I think that's a legitimate question, so I intend to ask that. I don't intend to ask anything about the firearms. Do you have any objection to that?
No, because I was gonna ask for the firearm questions to be excluded.
Okay, you realize how close you got to opening that door.
I wanted to focus, because I want to make the record clear. I wanted to focus on the fact that Mr. Robinson is not in this arrest video, is not part of this arrest video, and that nothing connected to the Wiley Street robbery, such as any guns that were used at the Wiley Street robbery.
But we don't know that. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, we don't need to litigate this because you step back from it, but just my thought is if you ask for things to be excluded, you should stay super far away from them when you're asking, because I think there's a good faith argument to be made that the gun that was recovered from the young lady who peeled away from Mr. Pritchett could be circumstantially connected to the robbery. That's the state's theory, but I told them to stay away from it. Just going forward, if you say, please keep something out, I need you to then not dance too closely to it, because I said it should stay out. And now the jurors, wait, what about guns? But we're not going to go there.
Understood.
Great. Mr. Pritchett, any objection to excluding the 2 questions about guns and asking the 1 question about whether Investigator O'Hare at any point during his work on the case identified anything associated with the Wiley Street robbery? Okay, that's what we're going to do. Let's bring the jurors in, please.
Yeah, I still predict a conviction on this, but it's not strong. They've got some stuff for reasonable doubt. I mean, you know, the way I see it, they did it obviously.
Normally, we don't talk about the questions right in front of you.
They don't have a good ID. Their
Different
own
setting.
IDs are from bad witnesses, which is almost always the case in the crime. You don't have like upright citizens hanging out with YSL crowd to observe their crimes. Of course, the witnesses are going to be like this. That's the way it always is. But I still think they'll get convictions on them.
All right, everyone else can be seated. Investigator O'Hare, did you at any point in your work on this case, which sounds like was limited to fugitive work, but at any point, did you come across anything that you had reason to believe was proceeds from the alleged armed robbery home invasion at Wiley Street?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Do you have any follow-up to that, Mr. Highlands?
Were you looking for anything, or were you just looking for arrests?
I was looking for the body, the individual.
Meaning Robinson at one point and Pritchett at another point?
Yes, Your Honor. Sorry,
Okay.
I wasn't clear on that.
That's all right. Not a dead body.
No.
All right. Okay. Ms. Mignot, do you have any follow-up for Investigator O'Hare?
Just so you were not looking for Mr. Robinson at that location, correct?
That day,
Yes,
we were looking for both of them.
okay, and you found Mr. Pritchett,
Correct.
and Mr. Robinson was not there.
He was not there that day.
Thank you.
And turning to the accused, sir, do you have any follow-up for Investigator O'Hare?
You had a warrant to look for that body, correct?
I'm sorry, Mr. Pritchard. Yeah, the mask maybe.
Did you have a warrant at the time to look for that body?
I did.
The warrant shown to the body of the individual?
At what point? I'm just trying to make sure I'm understanding your question.
If you had him in custody or any point?
You talking about yourself?
Yes.
To be truthful, it's been so long. I'm sure we showed you the warrant at some point. I can't tell you for a fact. I know at some point you were made aware that you had an active warrant for your arrest.
Don't know, no further question.
Just for standard operating procedure, if you and a fugitive squad are taking someone into custody, you obviously explain who you are, but is it standard to say, and here's a copy of your warrant, or is that the detective for whom you were doing the work, or that's just not part of your SOP?
We will not physically actually show them a copy of the warrant. We'll advise them what they're being taken into custody for. And typically involving cases such as this, they'll be transported to headquarters. We allow the detective at that point to start reviewing stuff with the case.
Okay, got it. Thank you, sir. You're free to go. Appreciate your time. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take a brief break. I know you've had lots of brief breaks, but that's just sort of how the ebb and flow is with your questions and the witnesses. But I need to make sure that the lawyers and the court reporter get a break. We worked through your morning break on a couple things. So 5-6 minutes, you'll know, because Deputy Gordon will try to corral you all. And again, we're going to break for lunch around 1. I promise we'll break for lunch, but it'll be around 1. This isn't the lunch break. Feel free to eat all the snacks you want. And if you're ever running low on anything that we normally stock, like don't say I need Cadbury chocolate. It's not naturally back there, but whatever has been back there, we ought to be able to get more. Not necessarily strawberry Nutri-Grain bars. If the set they bring, we get them from Central Command. We may get apple next, but we'll restock what we can. All right. I don't think I mentioned the K-Cup B type machine. That's for you as well.
All right. I don't need the speech on the snack replenishment. That's interesting. The jury's concerned about the ID, and I understand that. It just shows you the high burden that a prosecutor has. They have to prove things beyond a reasonable doubt. It's clear to me that these guys committed the offense, but proving it's another thing. And so they put masks on, and it's hard. I thought it was not good for them when this last witness, I can't remember her name. You know, the goth librarian. When she said, when the judge was asking from the jury's questions, you know, do you recognize the voice? And she's like, no, just general, you know, aggressive male voices. You would think she would know their voice. That's a big opening to argue reasonable doubt right there. Now, there's lots of other ways to. I think the prosecution's got enough, though. They've got them, you know, they've got them in the car going over to the scene. You got to believe that, you know, they say I didn't observe them actually walking in. Of course, they were casing the place, and they were working as a team, but not like at each other's hip. So no, they didn't watch him walk in, but they drove over. They concocted a plan. They drove over. It happened, and then they end up with the stolen goods. So it's enough for me. But the jury's wanting the Scooby Doo moment where they pull the mask off and they say, "Aha, it's you." We know who it is, but it's hard to ID him because of that. So you got to do some circumstantial stuff here. That's the way it is. I don't know unless they have some DNA or something coming in, which I highly doubt. I really do. All right, that's it. I can't take no more today. If anything good happens in there, we might do it. But I'm spent for the day. That was actually pretty interesting. That was pretty wild. And it actually worked out that we were late because then I figured out it was good that I got some of her testimony from yesterday before I went into this, so I had the lay of the land. It was pretty interesting. The last witness was a very likable guy, but it was not interesting. I don't know. We slapped around with that, and yeah, I eventually arrested him. And I don't know anything because I'm a fugitive guy. My job is to arrest him, and I did. That's all I know. All right, I still predict a conviction, but this is a defensible case. You can definitely get a few jurors to see it the other way and hang it for sure. You might even convince all of them. Hey, well, nobody saw him, and there you have it. We shall see. It'll be very interesting. I'm going to keep following the case. But it's clear to me that this is going to go on for a while. And I'm just spent, so I can't do the afternoon today. Thank you all for coming out. I appreciate it. I will see you all soon.